we started several days ago of recording in a video way a short inductive Akkadian grammar based upon the Epilogue of Hammurapi, with the goal also of looking at biblical parallels in the Hebrew scriptures and with New Testament application to Christ. Being a Christian minister and having an interest in Hebrew Bible, having taught that for years as an retired Old Testament professor, it's just interesting to look at the parallels, I believe, that can be found in a language like Akkadian. So I am working out of Hammurapi's code, and if anyone has been following us, I would suggest that you go to the first, part 1, and go to where we talk about, or where it says show more. And that will take you to a link that covers in a PDF format what we have put out on the web, especially on Google Books. And you'll be able to follow along with what is out there. And I would also encourage you to, if you can find the cuneiform, working on that on your own. But when we're doing the grammar, we're working with a normalized text that I have normalized in my own translation of Hammurapi. Borger so wonderfully has given the basic, first of all, trying to transliterating it, and then we have normalized it in my own work, and then have translated it, and now we're working on the grammar. So I would go back to part 1, we've done part 2, and then we've done part 3 in a short video. Now we're coming to part 4. I want to go back and just review a little bit. We have Dinat Misharim Shah Hammurapi, the laws of justice which Hammurapi, Sharum Leum Ukinuma, the competent king, established. Matam Usam Kinam Uridam Damkam Ushatsbitu, that is, and he caused to secure the land with reliable direction and good conduct. And then we come to line 9. Hammurapi Sharum Git Malum Anaku Anatsalmat Kakadim Sha Ilil Ishrukam Re Ushina Marduk Idinam. Notice as we read that Hammurapi, the perfect king, I am, to the black heads of to the black literally ones of heads, which Enlil gave to me, their shepherd Marduk committed to me, and their shepherd Marduk. And then going on, U egu achiul adi, I was not negligent or idle. I did not throw down the arms. In other words, I didn't become lazy, is what he's saying. Ashri shumim eshte ishinashim, that is, places of salvation, I sought them out. Pushki wattutim upeti, I loosed difficult or hard difficulties, literally difficulties, hard difficulties. Nuram ushetsi shinashim inakakim danim shazababa u ishtar ushat limunim, that is, the light I caused to rise on them, or I caused light to rise on them with the strong weapon which Zababa and Ishtar loaned to me. And then Ene igagalim sha'ia ishimam, with the wisdom which Ea ordained to me, Ene liutim, with the ability Sha Marduk idanam, which Marduk gave to me. And then he goes on, Nakli elish usaplish asuch, that is the enemies above and below, I tore out. Kablatim ubeli, shirmatim utiv nishi dadmi aburu usharbit. That is, he is continuing to boast about what he's done. Notice it goes on, of war I caused to extinguish, the flesh of the land I made glad, the peoples in places of water meadows I caused to rest, and then mugalitam ul ushar shinati, that is the one who would disturb, indeed I punish them, he says, and then illu rabutam ibu ninima, the great gods called to me, and I believe that's where we stop at the last part, or video number 3. So we're now on video or on line 42. Anakuma reum mushalimum shachatashu isharat. And so as we look at that and as we translate it, notice I became the shepherd who brings salvation, whose scepter is righteous. And as we look at the grammar of that section, notice he begins to describe himself again as the shepherd, and I became the shepherd who brings salvation. Notice Sipa is a logogram going back to Sumerian with the capital S-I-P, and bring it into Akkadian, it would be Re'um, that is shepherd. So I became the shepherd, Mushalimu, who brings salvation. Now, if you look at that Mushalimun, basically the word shepherd, Re'um, is nominative. Notice the ending, nominative singular, and it's followed by the D participle, masculine singular, from Mushalimu. And actually, I should say that is the D participle. Notice the doubling of the middle radical in the L, and it comes from the root shalamu, which means to bring peace or order. One is reminded of shalom in Hebrew. It is interesting, Hammurapi claims to be a shepherd who brings peace. And as I look at the Psalm 23, Adonai ro'i lo exad. In other words, I am the good shepherd, the Lord Yahweh says. And again, trying to seek to, or seeking to make some application to the New Testament as well, I'm reminded of Jesus in John 10:1, who said, I am the good shepherd. And he brought peace and order to the sheep, the church. And so as we go on, line 45, as he's talking about what he has brought, notice Shah, I am the shepherd who brings order or salvation. Shah chatashu isharat, that is, whose scepter, literally whose his scepter is righteous. And notice the grammar of 44. We're talking here again about Marduk, and we have the relative pronoun, and then we have his scepter from chatashu is righteous. Notice shu is your pronoun, your third masculine singular pronoun attached to the word for scepter. And isharat, line 45, is a gestative, feminine singular from asheru, with the macron accent over the E. And so, whose scepter, notice, is righteous. And then as we go on in Hammurapi, notice line 46. Sili tabum, ana aliyah taritz. That is, my shadow, my good shadow over my city is spread. And notice, as we look at these words, Tsili means shadow, and E is your personal pronoun, first person singular, from Tsilum, meaning shadow. And notice we have the adjective, my good shadow, in tabum. Again, this is basically in the nominative. So my good shadow is spread over my city. Anna here takes the genitive, and Ali, notice the I is the genitive ending, singular, and Ya is your personal pronoun, first person personal pronoun. And Tarat or Taritz is a G-stative, third masculine singular from Taratsu, which means to spread over. So what he's saying here is, my shadow is spread over, my good shadow of protection, I believe is the idea, is spread over my city. And then Hammurapi goes on in line 49. Ina utliya nishi mat shumerim uakad ukil. Notice, in my bosom, the peoples of the land of Sumer and Akkad I carried. And so Inna, if we look at Inna, we have the preposition in, and here it takes the genitive case. So in my protection, or in my bosom. I jumped ahead a line here, but in my bosom, utli is your genitive, and ya is your first person personal pronoun, which is attached to the noun. So in my bosom, nishi mat shumerim u akadim. That is, in my bosom, the peoples, and here we have in nishi from nishum, a genitive plural. Notice, an accusative plural. I carried in my bosom the peoples of the land of Sumer. And notice what we have here. We have two nouns in construct, the peoples, which is accusative, plural, and then mat, here we have a genitive, the peoples of the land of Sumer and Akkad. And this is a lot like Hebrew, where we have two nouns in construct. And so he says, the peoples of the land of Sumer and Akkad, ukil I carried. Notice ukil, as we look at it, means to carry. And this is a very interesting when we look at this in relationship to his bosom. So in the people of the land, in my bosom, I carry. And utliya, let me just make a comment on carrying the people of the land in his bosom. Utliya is a noun genitive, as we said, singular, with a pronominal suffix, first common singular, from utlu, meaning bosom. And so Hammurapi says, I carried my people as a shepherd, carrying the sheep in the bosom. And Yeshayahu, Isaiah chapter 40, it is interesting that the Lord carries the returning exiles from Babylon in his bosom as a shepherd carries sheep. So again, we have an interesting allusion back to the Hebrew Bible and what is done here. And so he goes on after talking about how I carried. Here we have another D preterite in ukil, third masculine singular. So I carried, and then he goes on in 53. Ina lamasiya ihisha, that is, in my refuge, they flourish. And so when we look at the grammar of that, notice when it talks about flourishing in my refuge, we have ichisa, which is the G preterite, third feminine plural from nachashu, to flourish. And ina lamasiya is, we would translate that in my refuge. And notice the hena again introduces the genitive of the noun lamasi, meaning refuge, with the ya ending again, showing the first person pronominal suffix, my. So what he's saying here is, in my protection, my refuge, basically they flourished. And then we move on to the next several lines or phrases. Ina shumim atabal shinati ina nemikia. Notice, in peace I establish them. And then we have the next phrase, ina nemikia ushtar zirshinati. So in peace, line 55. Notice as we look at this, we have again a genitive with henna, in peace, and then the verb, I establish them, ata bal shinati. Notice that form and that we're looking at here is rather interesting. Look at it in terms of how it is put together. And notice we have a U prefix, a shin T infix, and then we have par ush tap zir shinati. Notice it's a shin T with the U prefix, showing that we're looking at a shin T stem, and its first common singular from pazaru, to shelter, with a third feminine plural pronominal object suffix. I cause them to be sheltered. So notice line 58 as he goes on, talking about how that it was in my wisdom. In peace I establish them. And here, one thing I should say, in line 56, we have a GTN preterite, first common singular, with a pronominal direct object suffix, third feminine singular. Notice I have ruled them, from wabalu, to rule, to look after. Notice that word, and then we'll go on down to the other one we were looking at. Notice that word, the ton infix, is showing that we're looking at a GTN preterite stem. Because as you look at it, you have the TANB, and that the NB, can I say the N assimilated into the B, and this is why we have the doubling of the B here. So it was really from the root wabalu, to rule. Notice the ton infix going with that, and what we have here with that ton infix is an iterative aspect of the verb here. So basically, he is saying that I established in peace, I established them. Speaking of the people of Sumer and Akkad. And then he goes on. Now we come to the verb that we were looking at. Ena nemikia, in my wisdom. Ush tap zirshinati. That is, in my wisdom, I have caused them to be sheltered. And here, as we look at this form about being sheltered, we do have a shin t preterite, first common singular from pazaru, to shelter, with a third feminine plural pronominal object suffix. I cause them to be sheltered. And notice you have your u prefix again in this shin t preterite. The noun before it, nemikia, is a noun genitive singular with the I suffix, showing that it is a genitive, and it's introduced by the preposition hina, or ena, I should say. I'm thinking of Greek there, ena, taking the genitive plus the pronominal suffix, first person singular in the ya. So the noun is nemikum, meaning wisdom. So in my wisdom, he is saying, I cause them to be sheltered. And then as he goes on, in line 59, danum insham anala chabalim, that the strong, the weak, literally for not to harm. Notice danum means strong, and insham means weak. So the strong, the weak, and danum is nominative, singular. Insham is accusative with the ending. So the strong, not to harm the weak, which is the direct object. And ana is your preposition for, then la chabalim, not to harm. And when we look at this, notice again, it is in the genitive, like we said, and introduced by ana, which takes the genitive. And then we have the negative particle la, and notice chabalim is the G infinitive in the genitive of chabalum, for not to harm. The root, again, is chabalu, which actually means to do wrong or to harm. So he's going to take care of those that are weak, so that the strong will not oppress the weak. And this continues in the next phrase, and we're going to see again where he's going to take care of the orphan and the widow. Notice, ekutim almatim shuteshurim, that is, of the orphan and the widow, for to direct aright. In other words, to direct aright the orphan and the widow. It is interesting, there is a caring for the orphan and the widow. And the infinitive here, notice to direct the right, shuteshurim, basically is a shin t infinitive with the previous, again, preposition ana from the verb esheru, to direct. Hammurapi claims to direct the cause of the orphan and the widow. By the way, this is a theme that the Hebrew scriptures constantly bring out, and also in the New Testament in James 1:27, where James says that pure religion is to visit the fatherless and the widows. So again, we see some amazing parallel here as we look at what Hammurapi is saying in relationship to the Hebrew scriptures and to the Greek New Testament. And so we then we'll do a few more lines and then stop there. Notice it says, Ena Babilim Alim Shah Anum U Enlil or Elil Reshishu Ulu. That is, in Babylon, the city which Anum and Ilil, its head, I raised. And so as we look again at the grammar of this section, and beginning in line 60, well, going back to line 63, notice he is again talking about how he's going to care for the widow, and he is going to not do right, and also in Babylon, the city of Anum and Enlil, its head, I caused to lift up. In other words, I caused to raise by doing this. It is interesting, ulu is a deep preterite, first common singular from elu, meaning I caused to lift up or to go up. And then in line 69, as we continue, or line 67, I should say, it says, Ina esagila bitum shakima shameu ertsetim ishdashu kina, are established. Notice he says in esagila, the house whose is as heaven and earth, its foundations are established. And again, as we look at the grammar here, he's talking about how that the house in Sagila, the house, the goddess Sagila, whose as heaven and earth, its foundations, I established, or are, I should say, are established. We're looking at Ishdashu. Again, we're looking at an accusative, and then the shu, the pronominal suffix, third masculine singular, and then are established, from kinum, to establish. So what he's really saying here is, I took care of the house of Esagila, and the law of the land I'm going to set up, make right the decisions of the land by bringing about proper justice and carrying out, again, what would be a help to those that are suffering or to the weak. So as we go on, let me just stop here, and then we'll pick up, because I could go on taking so much time, but let me stop here, and we'll pick up on line 70 next time, the law of the land for setting right the decisions of the land, for the cutting, for the wrongs, for the cause of justice, and so forth. Let's stop there, and we'll go on and hopefully work through a little bit more of Hammurapi and try to draw some parallels to biblical Hebrew and, in my case, to application to the New Testament.